All right, let's jump right in. Today we're going deep on global cooperation and shared responsibility.
Big topic.
Yeah, but super important. We're focusing on chapters 10.1 to 10.3.
Okay, getting specific.
And it looks like you, our listener, really want to understand why this stuff matters so much.
Not just the what, but the why.
Exactly. And especially how communities fit into all of this.
The local level making a global difference.
Now, the source material actually has some surprising historical stuff that really puts things in perspective. But before we get to that, 10.1 jumps right into the importance of international collaboration.
Right to the heart of it.
And, it seems like every time there's a big problem, the solution is always more collaboration. It's almost like a buzzword now.
Well, it might feel like that, but the source material makes a good point. It's not just talk. These problems, they don't stop at borders.
Ah, good point.
Like, imagine trying to fix, pollution in just one city. Impossible, right?
If the next town over is dumping waste into the river, what's the point?
Exactly. The source material actually talks about that with transboundary pollution. And it's not just pollution either. Think shared resources. Water, migrating animals.
Oh, yeah, like if one country builds a dam on a river, it affects everyone downstream.
Exactly. Decisions in one place have consequences everywhere. Take the Mekong River, for example. Flows through 6 countries. So any decisions about its water usage have massive downstream effects.
Wow, makes you realize how connected we all are. Actually, the source material mentions how, historically, this need for collaboration isn't new.
Oh, absolutely. Communities have always had to work together.
Really? Like how?
Think ancient irrigation systems, managing grazing land.
Makes sense. Those things require teamwork.
Right. Cooperation, it's not some modern idea. It's essential. Always has been.
So it's like we've always known this, but maybe forgotten it along the way. Anyway, let's say we agree. Collaboration is key. How do we actually make it happen on a global scale?
That's where things get really interesting.
And maybe a little messy.
That's where 10.2 comes in. Global policies for environmental protection. They're like the rule book,
The rule book for the planet. Okay, I like that.
Yeah.
But who writes this rule book? And do countries actually follow the rules?
That's the fascinating part. So the source material dives into some specific agreements, like the Paris Agreement for climate change.
Right, I've heard of that one. Almost 200 countries signed on, right?
Huge. And there are others, like the Ramsar Convention for protecting wetlands.
Wetlands, huh? Didn't know there was a whole agreement for that.
Oh, yeah. Over 2,400 wetlands worldwide are protected because of it. That's bigger than all of Mexico.
Wow, okay, that's impressive. But these agreements, are they actually effective? Or is it just a lot of talk?
Well, that's the big debate, right? The source material mentions this idea of common but differentiated responsibilities.
Needing.
It acknowledges that some countries have contributed more to the problem, have more resources to fix it, so it gets tricky ensuring everyone does their fair share.
I can imagine. So, listener, what do you think? Are these global agreements working? Or just political posturing?
Yeah, that's a good question for our listener to think about. But let's move on to 10.3, the role of communities in global change. Because we've got these big global policies, but what about us regular folks? Where do we fit in?
Well, the source material actually emphasizes that it's not just top-down, it's bottom-up, too. Communities, they have a huge role.
Seriously. Give me an example. I need proof.
Okay, so there's this great example of community-based conservation in Namibia. Back in the 90s, wildlife populations were crashing, poaching, habitat loss, you name it.
Sounds bad.
It was. But then the government did something interesting. They gave local communities the rights to manage and benefit from the wildlife on their land.
So, like, instead of seeing wildlife as a problem.
Exactly. They became stakeholders in protecting it. They set up these conservancies, started ecotourism, got really involved in stopping poaching.
Does it work?
It was a total game changer. Wildlife populations rebounded, and the communities saw economic benefits. It's a win-win. That's amazing. It shows that when people feel empowered, they can do incredible things. But what about those of us who, don't live in a place with elephants roaming around? What can we do in our own, maybe less exotic corners of the world?
Good point. Well, the source material makes it clear that even small actions matter. It's about shifting our mindset, going from feeling powerless to realizing we can make a difference.
So not everyone needs to become a full-time activist, right?
Right. It's about integrating these values into our daily lives. Think about where you spend your money. Do you support businesses that are environmentally conscious? Can you reduce your own waste? Walk or bike more often?
It's like voting with your wallet and your lifestyle, basically.
Exactly. Those choices might seem small, but they add up.
Makes sense. But individual action is only part of it, right?
Yeah.
What about community involvement?
Absolutely. Volunteering, going to town hall meetings, even just talking to your neighbors about these issues, it all makes a difference. The source material actually talks about building social capital, those networks that help us work together.
Okay, so to summarize, change happens on multiple levels, from those international agreements to what we do every day and everything in between.
And don't forget the power of education, raising awareness.
Right. The more we understand, the better choices we can make, which is what this whole deep dive is about, really. But let's be real for a second. We're facing some massive problems: climate change, biodiversity loss, inequality. Is there even reason to be optimistic? What does the source material say about the path ahead?
The source material doesn't sugarcoat things. The challenges are real, but there's also a sense of hope. It emphasizes that the future isn't set in stone. We're shaping it with our actions. And there are examples all over the world of people making a difference.
So it's not about blindly believing everything will be fine. It's about working towards the future we want to see.
Exactly. And that means shifting our mindset from fear and scarcity to hope and abundance, recognizing that we're all connected and we share responsibility for this planet.
Yeah, that's a powerful idea. Shifting from scarcity to abundance. But how do we actually make that happen? I mean, it's easy to get overwhelmed by all the bad news out there.
I get it, it can be a lot, but the source material actually talks about this concept of leverage points, and it gives me some hope.
Leverage points. Okay, you've got my attention. What are those?
Well, think of it like a seesaw. You don't have to push with the same force everywhere to make it move, right?
Right, there are certain spots that give you more leverage.
Exactly. And it's the same with systems. There are points where even small changes can make a big difference. Those are the leverage points.
Okay, I see where you're going with this. So instead of trying to change everything at once, we focus on the areas where we can have the most impact. But how does this apply to, the big problems we're talking about?
Well, one leverage point the source material highlights is our economic systems. Right now, they're mostly based on this idea of endless growth, which puts huge pressure on the planet.
Yeah, more, all the time. Not exactly sustainable.
Right. But what if we shifted to a more circular economy, where waste is minimized and resources are reused and recycled?
That would be a massive change. Is that even realistic?
It might sound radical, but it's gaining momentum. The source material even mentions some examples. Like Amsterdam, they've set a goal to be fully circular by 2050. They're doing some really innovative stuff with waste management and promoting sustainable businesses.
Wow, a whole city going circular. That's pretty impressive. So we've got these global agreements, communities taking action, and now we're talking about transforming entire economies. Sounds like a lot is happening. But is it enough? Are we moving fast enough?
That's the question, isn't it? The source material acknowledges that time is running out. We need to act urgently. But it also emphasizes the power of human ingenuity. We're capable of incredible things when we put our minds to it.
So it's not about giving up. It's about channeling that urgency into action, finding those leverage points and pushing for change at every level.
And realizing that this isn't just about saving the planet. It's about creating a better future for everyone, a future where we live in harmony with nature and each other.
Right. It all comes back to that interconnectedness. What affects one of us affects us all. We're in this together.
Exactly. And that's what I really want you to take away from this. That sense of shared responsibility, the understanding that we're all part of something bigger than ourselves.
Wow, that's a powerful thought. It's been a fascinating journey exploring all of this. We've covered so much, from international collaboration to individual action. It can feel overwhelming, but I think the key is that we have the power to shape the future. This isn't a spectator sport. It's a call to action.
And that action can start today. What small step can you take right now to create a more sustainable and just world?
That's a great question for our listener to ponder. And on that note, I think we'll wrap up this deep dive. Thanks for joining us. And until next time, keep learning, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.